Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. You know, the story, the Devil's Den story, with this man you're going to see on the screen, admitted to the murder. James McGann, right? Murdering these two folks who were out walking with their 7 and 9-year-old girls. And luckily, the Arkansas State Police did such an outstanding job that within 5 days, they made an arrest of this man, an actual school teacher. How scary is that to think that this man was teaching 4th and 5th graders? And it begs to ask the question, was the target of this man really the 7 and the 9-year-old girls? And their dad defended their lives and the life of his wife also. And the wife brilliantly was able to get the children to safety. And what a stand-up woman, comes back to fight with her husband and winds up losing her life. Just absolutely horrific. But the story, not there's you can say anything about this story has a happy ending, but the fact that this man was arrested is a great story and great police work that was done by the Arkansas State Police, the FBI, the local police, and that this individual is now in custody. So folks, hold on to your hats. Hold on to your loved ones. We're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
And now a word from our sponsor, which we have a new one, FanDuel and the Believe Network. FanDuel's another sports betting company that is agreed to sponsor the Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. And just a little loose story about them. The Line played in the first week. The Commanders from Washington will be playing the New York Giants, and they're giving 6.5 points against the Giants. Washington is coming off their magical run last season. This season, the Giants team still fighting with Russell Wilson. We don't know if it's a good fit. That feels like solid value for a team with momentum. Jaden Daniels was throwing for over 240 yards per game. The Giants secondary has some holes, and Daniels should be slinging it early in the season to establish rhythm with his receivers, who's ever healthy. Malik Neighbors had over 65 yards per game. Brian Robinson Jr. over 75.5 rushing yards per game. And the Giants' run defense was shaky last year, and Washington will want to control the game on the ground at home. Russell Wilson under 1.5 passing touchdowns. New system, new teammates. Week 1 road game. Wilson's talent still, but that's a lot of variables. Game total, over 44.5 total points. Both teams should be able to move the ball. Daniels has his weapons. Wilson still has an arm, and week 1 defenses are usually a step behind. The prediction is the Commanders win 27-17. They cover the 6.5 hit, the over, and Daniels throws for 260 yards while Wilson struggles to find rhythm in the new system. Washington picks up right where they left off. So that's the FanDuel Network that is sponsoring the Police Off the Cuff podcast through the Believe Network. Joining me today to cover this horrific story is none other than retired NYPD Sergeant, professor at Albertus Magnus College in Connecticut, attorney. Welcome to the show, Professor Mike Geary. Welcome, Mike.
Bill, good to see you. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me on.
You know, Mike, the police work done in this case was outstanding, just outstanding, because all they had early on, was this horrific case. Someone attacked these two beautiful people who wind up losing their lives. And beautiful because they defended the lives of their 7 and 9-year-old girls. And the mom, Kristen Brink, she brought the girls to safety. And then talk about a stand-up woman, went back to help her husband fight this savage who wound up taking both of their lives. Just unbelievable. Mike, we had spoke off the air. Do you think James McGann, a 4th, 5th grade teacher, was targeting the little girls and the parents got in the way? What do you think?
Bill, in the beginning of the story, I didn't think about it, but reading the chat and what else we know about this guy, that there may be he may be a pedophile. That we believe that, yeah, on some levels, he may have actually been targeting the 5 and 7-year-old, the little kids, the 7 and 9-year-old little girls, and that the parents were in the way. Maybe he thought he could kill the parents very quickly and then run off with the kids. But I do believe that he probably, my guess, he was likely targeting the children, and the parents had to be killed in order to get to the children. I think he was going to kidnap those children. Yeah.
That is such a horrific thing. And so when you really think about it, how heroic are these two parents, Kristen and Clinton Brink? I mean, you would say all parents would defend their children, but they went above and beyond, and they lost their lives over this. A 28-year-old teacher has admitted to murdering the married couple found stabbed to death on a walking trail in an Arkansas park over the weekend in what appears to be a completely random attack. Andrew James McGann, 28, of Springdale, Arkansas, was charged with 2 counts of capital murder in the killings of 43-year-old Clinton David Brink and his wife, 41-year-old Kristen Amanda Brink, according to Arkansas State Police. The Brinks were fatally attacked while out hiking with their 2 daughters at Devil's Den State Park on July 26. Police said the horrific assault occurred about a half a mile into the park, with the husband attacked first. The children, aged 7 and 9, were not harmed in the incident thanks to the actions of their mother. We believe that the mother took them to safety and then returned to help her husband, Major Stacy Rhodes, with the Arkansas State Police said during a press conference. Unbelievable, Mike. You can't get any more heroic than that, than the actions of this mother. Just absolutely, it's sort of almost, it brings tears to your eyes to believe that she saved the lives of her 2 children. And of course, so did the husband by fighting off this man. If he, in fact, was targeting the 2 children, the dad and the mom saved the lives of the 7 and the 9-year-old.
Yeah, Bill, I would imagine seeing it from his point of view. And when we talk about these things, we have to analyze it from the viewpoint of the criminal. He probably surprised the father and probably got in a few stab wounds before the father really knew that there's this attack, because you're not expecting this whatsoever. You're not on a dark street late at night in a poor neighborhood. You are on a trail. It's broad daylight with your family. Your defenses are down. Your head's not on a swivel. You're not thinking about those sort of things. So he got the jump on the dad. Luckily, the mom had the presence of mind, get the kids out of there. She goes back. But if Clinton had maybe a walking stick or something to defend himself, even pepper spray, this might have turned out a whole lot better. But he got the surprise and he got the upper hand in the fight. And it's sad because 2 people lost their lives. But this is what parents do. They would lay down their life for their children. We know that. And these parents exemplify that, that ethos that you would do anything to save your family.
100%, Mike. This is Major Stacy Rhodes from the Arkansas State Police talking to News Nation.
It became clear that it was a Kia Stinger, and we used that information to vet various owners, and our suspect was identified.
So police track McGann to a barbershop 30 miles north of the murder scene. Check out this video. You can see it so clearly. They say he was not only cooperative, he admitted he did it. Police further say the victims were stabbed. We didn't know that with certainty before, and now we know that McGann's DNA matched blood found at the scene and that the attack was seemingly random. And with that, I want to bring back in Tony Bruschi, host of Hidden Killers podcast, who's based in Arkansas.
You know, Mike, one of the things that well, I'm not claiming to be a soothsayer, but we predicted that the attack was with a knife before it was released out there. And then shortly thereafter, the Arkansas State Police had said that the killer, and this was before he was identified, had hurt himself. And I knew right away what they meant was he cut himself and he left his blood in the crime scene. So not only does this killer, who you see a picture of on the screen, not only does he admit to murdering this couple, not only does he admit to it, but he leaves evidence on the scene that he is in fact the killer. And you can't get any stronger case than that. Trace evidence on the scene, and the fact that he confessed to the crime.
Yeah, Bill, this is as close as you can get to a perfect case, because you've got the video of the car leaving. It's a very, very, it's not as popular a model as other cars, like say a white Hyundai Elantra. You know, in other cases, it's a stinger. There's not a lot of people who have it. The Arkansas State Police went to the DMV and they tracked down all the owners, and you could just look at their faces on DMV photos. And so you're coming up with this guy, you match it against the mugshot. It was, you know, the cops in this case, nobody slept. That coffee pot was going 24/7 until they got this guy. This was a manhunt, and that's what cops do best. And so in this case, you can see him walking very calmly into that barbershop. He made statements indicating he was there at the scene. I'd love to know exactly what he said, but placing himself at least placing himself at the scene, to me, that's close enough to a confession. And it's a really great case. Now he'll have an attorney, but you know, the attorney probably can do very little with this case. If you're a defense attorney, this is a nightmare case. There's really not a lot of wiggle room to argue. But the law enforcement came together, did a great job. The public was terrific, helping the police so much initially with that video of the guy leaving the park. That gives the cops one thing that they could work on, and that, you know, leads to a lot of other evidence. But it's a terrific case, and hopefully this case will be prosecuted and done quickly, because this guy doesn't deserve anything more than you know, anything other than justice that he's entitled to. Nothing more.
100%. And we just also, you know, want to reiterate what an outstanding job the investigators did on this case. An arrest in less than 5 days, just absolutely unbelievable. Go back to News Nation.
And who has been on the story from the start, and we've been speaking to you as well here on the program. Tony, let's start by playing a little bit of what one of his student parents told our affiliate in Oklahoma. This is from another state that chimed in today. This is chilling.
Okay.
I heard were that he would invite girls to eat lunch in his classroom, and it would only be girls, and girls to stay in from recess in his classroom, and it would only be girls, and that he passed out candy. And I've heard kind of conflicting stories there. Sometimes some parents say he only gave candy to the girls. Other parents say no, it was to girls and boys. So not sure about that, but there was definitely, based on the email that was sent out to the parents in his class, there was definitely some inappropriate behavior.
Wow, Tony. I mean, so much has changed in the last 24 hours. We've learned so much. Tell us what you're learning about McGann's history.
We're learning a lot about McGann's history, a troubled teaching history, to say the least. Starting back in 2022, he had a teaching job in Texas at a Donald Elementary, and then just a year right after that, bounced to Oklahoma to a Broken Bow, and the following year to another Oklahoma school in Sandy Springs, and then he was set for 2025 to begin teaching in the Springdale Elementary group, which is right here in northwestern Arkansas. The reason bouncing year to year, well, it seems it was resignations every single year. The question is, well, why did he keep getting hired? That's the problem within the system of hiring. Unless there's a criminal charge that is filed, the next district's not going to know a whole lot about that individual that they are hiring, because from district to district, there are different laws, there are different rules, and they are all scattered around, and some do allow internal files to be shared and some do not. The majority in our country do not. So anything that may be an internal investigation finding, hey, this person should resign for whatever reason, and these are just pure allegations and speculation, would not necessarily be able to be shared legally with another school district.
It's so scary.
That sounds really crazy, Mike. It almost sounds like the whole thing with the clergy, and when certain clergy
Yes,
members that are
100%.
pedophiles, and instead of doing something about them, they just transfer them. This sounds
Right.
exactly like that. However, in the teaching profession, perhaps unions and the law is protecting them, not specifically school administrators. So if that is the case, it seems like this job he got in Arkansas that he had yet to start was his fourth job in about 2 or 3 years. That's disturbing.
Yeah, Bill, his actions now we see in hindsight, but his actions when he was first in the first in Texas, and then he went to Oklahoma. But it's grooming. You're giving children candy. You know, I don't care if it's kindergarten. I don't care if it's first grade. What are you doing giving kids candy? That's not your job. You know, you're the teacher. And I think it's grooming behavior. And he did eventually say some inappropriate things to one girl who reported it. But we see this with in New York City, civil service and teachers in New York City and other civil service. If you try to fire a teacher or somebody from the Board of Ed at any level, it's going to take you at least a year. You can put this person on like a leave. They'll be relieved of their duties, collect full pay, full benefits, and they'll have a union representative try to stretch out the disciplinary process as long as they possibly can, because that person is getting paid. There's no incentive to get this disciplinary case over with quickly. And so he bounces from state to state to state. And my feeling is, look, there is the law, but there's also a phone call. I can't imagine getting an application from someone who's got at least 1 or 2 other previous teaching experiences within like 2 years and not calling up and saying, what's going on? What is going on? Why did this person leave? I see a resignation. Why did they leave? I want to hear informally behind the scenes. And I think that, you know, in many school districts, they're a little bit bureaucratic. Nobody wants to say anything bad about anybody. Everybody's afraid of being quoted. And they're afraid of the disciplinary process, and they don't want to ever falsely accuse somebody of committing some sort of action like grooming. But these are our children. These are our children, and we're allowing them to be in a classroom for 6, depending on what grade they are, maybe, 6 hours, 8 hours a day with someone who we have really no idea who they are. And so that is very scary as a parent.
100%. Let me go back to when he gets arrested in this beauty salon / barbershop.
When you think about these people who are, with our children, and sometimes, behind closed doors, and it's really terrifying. And to know that he went from school to school to school, and then I understand that he was about to start a teaching job there in Arkansas as well. And I even heard one report today that the reason he was getting a haircut was because he was getting ready for the start of school. You know, authorities are now saying that this was a stabbing. So we've got that detail confirmed. And they did give some detail about how it all went down. What exactly did they say in this presser?
It's a real heartbreaking story, and we had reported it the other day after talking with the 911 dispatcher. And this is from children themselves. The man approached the family, seemingly just kind of out of nowhere, attacked the father directly in the chest with the knife. Mom allegedly yelling, "Why are you doing this?" And then kind of shooing the kids away a bit, and then and saying, "Run as fast and far as you can," and then returning to try and aid her husband, to which then she became the second victim of this monster.
I mean, it's unbelievable, especially the details coming from those little girls. They're just 7 and 9 years old. Imagine watching that with your parents. I mean, it's just devastating. That's all there is to it.
You know, this is absolutely horrific, Mike. We spoke about it yesterday, and about how seemingly you're not safe anywhere in this world. That you have to be able to defend yourself and defend your family, and in certain areas, politicians try to take away your Second Amendment. This is one of the reasons you have the Second Amendment. Some guy like this, some monster, as he's being called, just out of nowhere for no reason known to man, comes up and stabs this dad in the chest. And as we said earlier, we conjectured possibly he was after the little girls. And the mom, no doubt an absolute hero, saves the lives of the little girls by getting them out of harm's way. And that's just, I mean, you can't say enough about that. That's absolutely unbelievable. I want to bring on he was caught in a barbershop, and these women were cutting his hair. I want to hear what they have to say.
Like this, since you want nothing cut from the top. He's like, I don't want anything cut from the top. I'm like, okay, this is how it'll look like. And then I showed him a picture, and he's like, no, that's not what I want. And so I showed him other reference pictures of haircuts, and we ultimately were going for a mid fade.
Okay. Well, Alejandra, did authorities tell you what he was accused of doing? We don't see the cops storming in this shot, but you guys must have been, just wondering what was going on. Did they say?
Well, it was a scary situation. I had gotten out for lunch, so my sister was keeping me on the loop. Once detectives showed up, we didn't know really who they were, but once they asked whose black car was parked out front, apparently they had been tracking it from several tips that have been going on before this. And so it was just overwhelming whenever they stood the client up from the chair and decided to ask him questions, and then they started taking evidence. So it was just, you don't see that every day. You don't think it could happen at your establishment. And knowing that he did this just out of a soulless act with no motive, apparently, it's scary to think that anything could have happened. So it is a little bit of a stressful situation. I am glad things didn't go differently, especially for my sister who was cutting his hair. But it was within conversation, they did mention that it was possibly related to the double homicide that happened at Devil's Den, which is what confirmed with us.
These two women have to really feel like they dodged a bullet,
Oh, yeah.
having this double murderer in a barbershop. It appeared in the picture they showed earlier that he had a black eye of his left, I think it was, of his right eye. So that could have been one of the injuries he sustained in this attack. But it appears also from the Arkansas State Police that his blood was at the crime scene. So let's talk a little bit about the investigation. The Arkansas State Police tirelessly did an unbelievable job in the fact that they were able to do canvases of the park, get people to turn in video and still photos, get a picture that resulted in this sketch. Many people were critical of this sketch. It doesn't look like him. Well, you do, the sketch artist does the best he possibly can. And the critical information was the information about the black Kia Stinger, that car. And I don't know if they had any digits or letters from the license plate because it was reported that he had covered it up with tape. However, the car is what led to him getting identified. And here they were tracking his car right to this barber shop, slapping the cuffs on him right in the barber shop. And lo and behold, it's him, and he confesses to the crime. Now, in completion of the investigation, they have numerous warrants to do. Of course, a warrant on his residence, and of course, a warrant on the car, because inside the car may be some transfer evidence from the victims, i.e., blood, hairs, any of those type of things, dirt from the area the attack took place. So all of that is part of this investigation, but can't say enough that the Arkansas State Police, the local police, the FBI did an unbelievable job in putting this guy away, Mike.
Yeah, Bill, it was a brief, we weren't sure how long this would take, but we didn't think it would take long. But it was much quicker than we thought. And that's great, because the quicker they can get this savage off the streets, because if he was not picked up, if for any reason they could not narrow this person down, his DNA, even if it was at the crime scene, would probably not already be in CODIS. And so you would have a situation where, okay, you've got the DNA, but you don't have anything to match it to. And then at that point, you have to do the IgG, investigative genetic genealogy, see how long that takes. There's a possibility this guy could have gone through part of the school year, maybe till Christmas, and be exposed to children. And so, and then who knows if he would ever attack anybody again. But it was a horrific thing. And I'm sure the police did not sleep. They all worked together. The FBI and the Arkansas State Police seemed to work together. They got enough trace evidence from inside his car, and they got evidence of his DNA at the crime scene. Blood, that is fantastic. So there's really no way for a defense attorney to argue that he wasn't, that's it's not his car. It's a mistake. That's not his DNA. I mean, you could argue all you want, but when you get DNA exact match to within a quintillionth of a millionth of a population, that's pretty darn sure. So it's a terrific law enforcement, effort, all hands on deck, and they solved this within about 96 hours. That's terrific.
A big question, Mike, is this his first time?
You know what?
Has he killed before? What we don't know. Well, they haven't reported that he had a criminal record. We know that he had an extremely spotty and perhaps disturbing teaching record of changing jobs at least 3 times. I think this was going to be his 4th job. He was hired at an elementary school in Arkansas. Then he teaches, I think, 4th or 5th grade. That is disturbing in itself also, Mike. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Phil, if I'm the Oklahoma State Police, I'm the Texas Police, he's new in Arkansas, but if I'm a state police in Oklahoma or Texas, I'm going to show that mugshot, and I'm going to go back over every single possible child molestation case that we have, or any single abduction case we have involving children, say in the past, say 3 or 4 years from the time he got out of, say, like, a little bit after he got out of high school, somewhere around there, and go over each and every one of them, see if there's even a single case that we've got of a male white with that kind of blondish, reddish, type of hair, and some sort of black car. That's what I want to know. And I think that he's probably has, unfortunately, SA'd some children in the past. And I think that this isn't his first attempt. And I think that there's probably a couple of victims out there. I'm not going to say homicide victims, but I think SA victims, children SA victims that haven't yet been found, or if they did make a report, they haven't been matched up to him. But I'm sure this wasn't his first time trying something this violent.
Absolutely. You know, folks, one of the things also is that now his DNA, of course, will go into CODIS. And if he is wanted for any crimes, that'll match up. But so we don't know. This could have been his first time, which is very disturbing to
Yeah.
your first crime that you're caught for to be a double murder. Folks, I want you to also hit that subscribe button, share, like, and make comments on this podcast. It helps our algorithm. Also, we have a new sponsor. You see it up on the screen, FanDuel, sponsoring us through the Believe Network, and we want to welcome them to the Police Off the Cuff family in sponsoring this show that is growing and growing and growing. We appreciate all the new people that have subscribed to make us. We should be hitting 92,000 today, we hope. Mike, your final thoughts.
To the parents out there with children, arm yourself as best you can according to state law. And remember, you are your first responder. You cannot rely on cell service or the police to get there quick enough in an emergency. So take care. Have your head on a swivel whenever you're with your children.
Absolutely, folks. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. On behalf of myself and Professor Mike Geary, thank you for tuning in today. Have a great day and God bless.
One episode just ain't enough.